Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the NWR Virtual Healthcare Day for November 2021. My name is Finn Blake, and I'll be your host for today. Up next this morning, we have 4DMedical, listed on the ASX under the code 4DX. 4DMedical is a medical technology company aiming to deliver the global gold standard in respiratory diagnostics for all lung disorders, including coronavirus, asthma, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, cystic fibrosis, and cancer. The unique 4DMedical technology accurately and quickly scans lung function as the patient breathes to provide sensitive early diagnosis and to monitor changes over time. It's timely to hear an update on the story after a positive update yesterday regarding the commercial rollout of its XPELVAS software with Australia's largest diagnostic imaging provider, I-MED. Presenting this morning is Dr Andreas Fouras, the Managing Director and CEO. If anyone in the audience would like to submit a question for the Q&A session at the end of the presentation, please do type it into the Q&A panel on your screen at any time. So without further ado, I will hand it straight over to Andreas.
Cheers, thank you. It's great to be talking to you today. So I'll just briefly introduce myself. I'm sure most of you on the call, know who I am. I'm Andreas Fouras. I'm the inventor of the technology, founder and CEO at 4DMedical. And this has been a journey that takes technology that was developed at Monash Uni back as early as 2005 through to the founding of 4DMedical in 2013. And it's been a really exciting last 12 months on that 8-year journey. A key strength of 4DMedical, at the heart of the 4DMedical business case, is that we lie at the intersection of a software as a service or a technology business model with a really exciting and very significant healthcare market opportunity. So we have a US $31 billion global market opportunity that is geographically spread in all the usual ways, with about 45% in the United States, and where the current that current spend is predominantly 99% of that spend is across 4 technologies: CT, X-ray, pulmonary function test, and nuclear medicine. In brief, each of them has a part of the market on the basis of one unique offering that they have. For example, a spirometry offers, unlike many of the others, offers measurement of how the lungs work. However, it's only one-dimensional in nature. X-ray has its part of the market because while it's only 2-dimensional in nature and not clinically extremely useful, it is inexpensive and widely available. CT is the richest of these and has this rich 3-dimensional data set, but is relatively expensive, can be difficult to get access to, and has a significant radiation dose. And nuclear medicine has its foothold in the market because of the rich data that it provides, measuring both airflow and blood flow in the lungs. However, it's significantly held back by the fact that it's really very expensive and very complex to administer. On the other hand, XV technology in our product XPELVAS, as you can see here on the screen, really does have some significant advantages over that. This technology is offered in hospitals using existing X-ray equipment that's already there. And every point of measurement you see on this video is, on this 4-dimensional video, the 3 dimensions of the lung and the 4th dimensions of phase of breathing, is a measurement of airflow, is a functional measure. So we have in one single product something that competes with all of those 4 previous products, in that it measures airflow like pulmonary function test, but it's 4D instead of 1D. It leverages the availability and the low dose of X-ray platform, but is far richer and far more clinically useful, is both cheaper and offers lower radiation dose than CT, as well as being functional in 4D as opposed to 3D, and also saves us from a lot of the massive cost and significant inconvenience of nuclear medicine scans. Here we can see the classic demonstration of the XV technology capability, where we can see that ordinary folks, whoever they are, with or without a medical degree, can easily see at a glance the difference between a healthy lung and a lung with that is being held back by pathology. When doctors see this quick 10-second video, they're always interested to know more and see how they can get access to this technology platform. So as I said, we offer all of the advantages of those existing products without their disadvantages, really leading to very significant value proposition. Superior analytics, fast, non-invasive, earlier diagnosis leads to better outcomes. The software as a service provides seamless integration with work streams, can be integrated rapidly, is cheaper, and also lower radiation dose, which means safer and more convenient. And you don't just have to take it from me. We have some really fantastic supporters from all around Australia and the United States who believe in the technology and are working with us and supporting our efforts to improve global health. Company overview. I'm sure you're familiar with the year that we've had. It's really been an amazing 12 plus months, starting with FDA and then IPO. The two key things I want to talk about today off this timeline is back in December 2020, when we announced our first commercial pilot, our first commercial use of XPELVAS based in Victoria. Folks now know that was the beginning of our pilot program with IMED, which has led over the intervening time to successful conclusion of that pilot, commencement of a new pilot, and now rollout to three IMED sites, which we'll be talking about again a little bit later. Also, in March, we were able to announce streamline access to US Department of Defense and Veterans Affairs contracts. That's been a really exciting outcome for us. And we have been steadily working on our Department of Defense and VA sales pipeline. And I feel confident that in the same way that our first entry in IMED in December of 2020, that our access now and our first entry with VA is going to take us down that same pathway. Quickly, for an aside, talk about our product pipeline. I've been talking about XPELVAS, our XV technology software that measures airflow everywhere in the lungs. I think that's really well understood by the market. I'll quickly talk about what our VQ product or technology platform allows us to do. It does two things for us. Firstly, it allows us to measure both blood flow as well as airflow in the lungs. This really allows us to directly compete with that very premium end of the market in nuclear medicine, accessing better value, bigger value to the healthcare system and therefore greater payments. Also, that technology platform allows us to start looking at using not only X-ray systems, which have significant advantages of cost and dose, but also CT systems, and offering doctors that choice of funneling their patients either through X-ray systems or CT systems. We see as a great opportunity to also expand our market. Finally, our XVD, our dedicated lung scanner, as funded by the $28.9 million federal government grant, plus matching funds from our investors, really is an exciting step forward globally for lung technology. The world's first dedicated scanner is going to be a great platform for us to expand and accelerate the penetration of our software technologies. And here you can see these product milestones, and we're looking forward to giving a big update to the market early in the new year on these product pipelines and where they will be, when we can expect them to be hitting the market. Commercialization strategy is, of course, the key for 4DMedical at this time. And, I want to reiterate that we have, two pillars of our commercialization strategy. They are our clinical trials, where we have eminent researchers at leading medical institutions using the technology in a very scientifically controlled way and taking that and publishing that in the public sphere, whether it's at conferences or in the literature, so that folks, doctors can see the eminent scientists from the eminent institutions talking about the technology in that tightly controlled scientific way. And side by side with that, our clinical pilot program, where physicians are using the technology, GPs and specialists using it day in, day out with their everyday patients, so that folks can see, so that doctors and healthcare professionals can see how the technology works in that day-to-day environment, how it works for them, really giving the two forms of evidence, the eminence evidence and the day-to-day use evidence for the use of the technology. And both of those really are each in their own way supporting broad market adoption. So to talk about progress on our clinical trial pipeline, these are our 8 active studies. I'd really like to highlight the Vanderbilt study where we're looking at veterans, which supports our VA play, and also our Johns Hopkins study where imaging is proceeding really very well. And we're hoping that it won't be long before we can announce that imaging is complete, and the team there is working on public communication of those results. As I've been saying, this public communication of results from organizations like Vanderbilt and like Johns Hopkins and the teams that are working there really helps enormously to build the credibility and drive adoption of the technology. Also, of course, the same thing is happening in terms of our clinical pilot pipeline. But really, I think, what I want to talk about here today is where this clinical pilot pipeline in Australia has in fact taken us to. And that's really where the announcement yesterday came to, with the commercial rollout of our XPELVAS technology with I-MED. Very exciting relationship we have there with I-MED, Australia's largest diagnostic imaging provider. And that's commencing with an initial clinic next month and 2 more to follow early in 2021. The arrangement with I-MED follows, this significant progress of pilots. Pilot 1 starting in December of last year, and our second pilot just commencing recently. And, follows really overwhelmingly positive feedback from those pilots. The doctors, the radiologists, the patients have all really been excited, have loved the experience of using our technology, which has then led to this rollout. And we do have an expectation. We are working hard with I-MED to have broader commercial expansion across their network, following success at those initial clinics. And I-MED has national coverage and could represent a really fantastic partner for us to get our technology out across the whole Australian market. If we then look at our clinical pilot pipeline in the United States, here you can see that we've split it by color across both the VA network and the rest of that network, that acute hospital, or if you like, the civilian hospital networks across the United States. And I am incredibly excited about where we sit right now with the rollout of those and our pipeline at the VA. Those of you who heard me talk just a few weeks ago understood the level of excitement I had about where we were in Australia, and I now have that same level of excitement about where we are getting in the United States, in particular through growing relationship, growing trust, and growing evidence base for how our technology can help veterans and those who have served. And if any of you have a good understanding of the US culture, veterans and their safety is something that is really something that's treasured in the United States. And we're really very excited to be part of providing great healthcare to those folks. And I think part of, as I said, part of the excitement, part of why we're so confident that when pilots are done, that leads to adoption, is because of case studies such as these, case studies where ordinary patients use the technology and it helps them and their doctor to get to better decisions. Such as this patient that allowed better treatment or appropriate treatment to be prescribed, and also allowed the patient to understand what was happening to their own body, that the disease was in fact concentrated on one side of the body rather than the other, which explained how they felt and how this condition was affecting them. Or this case study of a patient where ordinary CT really may have missed how significant the effect was on their lungs function. Our scan shows really significant, these red areas across whole parts of that part of the lung. These parts look okay on CT, but the red indicates that they're not breathing well. Once again, helps the patient, helps the doctor to prescribe the right treatment and to manage that patient appropriately. And it's exactly these day-to-day cases that really drive the progression from pilots to commercial rollout, as we've seen just recently in Australia, and as I expect that we'll be seeing across the United States as well. So thank you for sitting through that. I'm really happy to get into questions.
Beautiful, Andreas. Thank you so much for that. We will jump straight into Q&A. We've got a fair few questions to get through. So first one is, can you address the clinical trial data that was released at the HIMSS Middle Eastern Conference this week?
I'm not sure that I can answer that question, Finn, at this time. I'm sorry. I'm actually not across that data and that question. So I apologize. I don't feel it'd be appropriate for me to give half an answer.
No problems. Next one is, on the IMED deal, what is the size of the deal and the rollout timeline?
So what we have with IMED at this point is a preliminary deal that will roll out across those sites, and we're working with IMED to create a national rollout deal. And that national rollout deal is likely to be sized, I guess, to answer the first part of the question. But these initial rollouts, which we expect to happen at, of course, late December, early January is if we take that sort of January period aside, we're expecting more or less to roll out one site per month. And at this point in time, those deals aren't sized. It'll be a matter of how much business can be generated, how many GPs prescribe, and so on. But when we do grow the deal from those 3 sites into a national deal, at that point in time, there's likely to be sizing included then.
Perfect. Any update on the blood flow through the lungs product clinical trials? Is it still a short step to monitor blood flow through the heart?
So we are really excited about the capability of our technology to measure blood flow, and that we're looking at doing that initially. Just to be clear, to answer the question, initially we're using the technology to measure blood flow through the lungs. And that's really critically important as a part of lung health. However, perhaps the question is alluding to a stepping stone from measuring blood flow in the lungs to then also measuring blood flow in the heart. And that is not something that we've spoken about publicly a lot, but it is indeed on our development pipeline. And I am happy to say that we continue to enjoy success. The prototyping work we're doing in that space is looking very exciting.
Now, in the context of COVID, is there any demand for the product to monitor the long-term effects of the virus?
There is, and that's something that we are working on. We're working on that both in Australia and the United States. And we do have interest in that. And it's something that we're working on through our pilot sites to grow that evidence base and to grow the level of comfort for the clinical community to accept the technology in that space. From what I've seen of when we've used the technology on patients with post-COVID or monitoring after COVID, the technology really has looked quite powerful and very exciting. And those of you who really follow our media very closely may have seen, actually, we did have some news coverage in the United States on doctors there talking about how they could use our technology for long COVID patients.
Amazing. Nearly 12 months to get commercialization from IMED after the pilot trial started. Do you foresee there being any ability to sort of reduce this timeline in future?
Look, I think that is absolutely part of the work that the company is doing to accelerate those processes. Of course, it's worth noting that IMED is a very large and sophisticated organization, much larger in general. They have 250 imaging locations, and that does also mean that that oftentimes speed is not at the key priority for such a large and sophisticated organization as they are. So I think that I guess in short, there's 2 ways that we expect to be going faster in general. One of them is that we're getting better at what we do. We have a growing evidence base and growing capabilities inside the company. But also, I think in general, other organizations are likely to be a little smaller and have less steps involved in going through the pilot process.
In terms of the 4DX integration with IMED Visage CRM, is it a simple API link that you're going to be using?
So I think we have I don't want to get into the details of how we do those connections. We have partnered. We are partnering with a number of bits of connectivity. So as you say, we do have to connect into the RIS systems that iMed are using, and that absolutely does include the ProMedicus platform. But there are other components to it. What I can say is that we have solved those issues, and we do have connectivity into the iMed system, and we expect that with the prototype connectivity that we have now, that we're in a good position to roll that out across the whole iMed network.
Got time for one quick last one. Andreas, what's the main reason you're confident in the 4D business as we approach the new year?
That's a really easy question answer, in that when we show the technology to doctors, like on a presentation I've showed you today, almost every doctor is interested right away. And then when they get their hands on the technology and they actually use it with their patients, whether it's their clinical trial patients or whether it's their patients that they're treating, they love it even more. The more engaged they get with it, the more they use it, the more they see it, the more excited those doctors get. And their excitement really is the fuel for my excitement.
Beautiful. Andreas Fouras, thank you so much for your time today. Really excited to see what happens in the future with 4DX.
A real pleasure. Thank you so much.